From Alex Kimmerly, question: can you discuss the profit per kilowatt hour between the Megapack XL and the vehicles? There are those that say Megapacks flipped vehicles. Yeah, so we cover this quite a bit at the beginning of the video, where we think there's a lot of margin potential because of there's sort of this large gap between what we think Tesla's cost per kilowatt hour is versus how much they're charging for it. But maybe a high level summary and then a lot more detail at the beginning, Alex, of the video. Whenever you have the chance, I would highly recommend it. But yeah, what do you think, Matt?
So a lot of the things I've seen on Twitter are like, that there's 70 times more profit or something like that in selling a Megapack compared to a car. And it's like, well, that you completely ignore the scale at that point. And I don't even think it's necessarily an important distinction anyways, now that you're not cell constrained. Like, you want both to be as profitable as possible. But like the rough math I was just doing is like, if you assume the car does 15,000 in gross profit at a 75 kilowatt hour pack, that's $200 of profit per kilowatt hour, which is pretty comparable to the profit levels that we were talking about. So I would say, they're both roughly comparable on a dollar per kilowatt hour basis anyways.
Dollar per kilowatt, yeah. Next question. Thank you, Alex. From Feltrain S. Question: have you broken down total LFP supply from BYD, CATL, etc., to figure out how much of it is going to potential Megapack / power walls? How do you think about this?
So CATL has been building a ton of LFP lately. This is something that's not completely up my expertise. I know, like, Jordan and some others definitely follow, supply more closely than I do. So I'd certainly kind of refer to them. But what seems very clear is that CATL has like it's not quite a glut, but like a lot more supply than was ever available before. So that's what I think is kind of enabling, Lathrop to ramp and probably ramp really, efficiently. If I were to kind of like steelman like the bull case for 60% gross margins, like in Q1, it would be that like Tesla has always been cell constrained. And so it's not like the ramping was like the constraint for being profitable. It was, the like not having enough cells to actually operate at capacity. So that is like completely gone as a constraint right now, at least, for the short term. It's a big opportunity, I think, right now.
Thanks. Thank you, Feltrain. Let's do the next one. From oh man, Chandranil. Sorry,
Chakraborty. No,
Chakraborty. Yes, we tried. Sorry.
That was an
question.
L. Sorry. If it was Chinese, I'd give a better shot.
Yeah, come on, man. Question: are you worried that Tesla is taking so long to produce their own batteries at scale? CATL and BYD seem to come from behind and get ahead quickly. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, like, Tesla's in-house cell production capabilities are really focused on 4680, which is like a higher capability, higher performance cell, for automotive applications. So like, I've personally never been super concerned about, how fast that goes. I know a lot of other people have, but to me, it's like a small change in the overall cost structure of cars. So I haven't been like super concerned with it. But like what Tesla has been doing is like getting contracts with everybody, like everywhere, to get more cell supply. So are they giving up a little bit of margin potentially by not doing it all in-house? Yeah. Like, is BYD scaling like crazy right now in CATL? Yeah. But the industry needs this. Like, if we're going to get to 1.5 terawatt hours, I think industry wide, the target was like 10 terawatt hours by 2030. Like, we're not going to get there. I'm very pessimistic. So I think this is an example of one of those spaces where like we need everybody to like pitch in, and like I'm happy that CATL and BYD are ramping, and Tesla is ramping too, just not probably at the scale that they are on that one particular part of the whole kind of vertical integration process.
So the thought process is whoever makes the batteries, they will go to use. Like, no one's batteries are going to go to waste.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have as a battery maker.
Sure.
Thank you. Next one. From V, question: who are the potential customers, i.e. the total addressable market for Megapack? Any comparable companies out there? And then one thing through this question that I forgot to bring this up while I was having anxiety, but now that I'm much better, I can bring up this question because I completely blanked on it.
You look great.
Thank you. My color came back. The Semi. So I had Brian from Next Big Future, I think is his publication.
Mm-hmm.
The Tesla Semi and the Megapack combination could be very interesting because it's going to be best to have a Megapack, say, at the sites where you're going to charge semis to, have the energy and deploy it when somebody's charging. It seems like the Semi and the Megapack are almost coming in a pair. And that's one use case for the Tesla energy thing that I thought of. Like, wow, so it's not just utilities where this is very useful. It's anywhere where you need to like just draw energy very quickly. Draw energy that's you're going to use for whatever application. In this case, the Tesla Semi would make sense. So like that's kind of where my head goes. Where does your head go with this question?
Yeah, so I think that's definitely worth like a deep dive. Mad Manx on Twitter has done some really great threads on the potential for semi and Megapack pairing. And in fact, I reserved 21 Cybertrucks, and like what was looking at like the cost. I did like a really deep dive a couple
That's
years
it,
ago.
just 21.
Like what's the cheapest way to operate a fleet of robo taxis? I mean, and it can just be like vehicles in general, but like if you do the math, depending on where you live, like having a huge array of solar with some Megapacks, and then having your fleet use case or your semi truck, like using that, like that's going to be the lowest cost of energy. And so I think you're going to see a lot more of this over time. I mean, like they clearly are trying to satisfy their external customers first before they start pairing these with like the superchargers and stuff like they said they were going to do. But like if you do the math on it, it's like, yeah, that's an amazing opportunity. So like whenever they get to the point where there's a match between supply and demand for Megapacks, like they can continue to increase supply because they've got so many applications in house that they can make this work for very economically. So yeah, this is a huge market, and it's going to continue to grow, and it's supply constrained right now, which gives them pricing power.
Yeah, it's kind of like what are the addressable markets for a thing where you can have a battery? It's like where's an application where energy is useful, right? And I feel like, okay, that's literally anything.
Yeah.
So that's why that's kind of like the how I'm conceptualizing this sort of market.
And you think into like the future where Tesla has like solar on your house, power walls, EV charging, and then like home HVAC system, and then they can optimize all that to provide the most value to the grid. Like it's like that's the way energy should be done. Like that's the way we get rid of this this Doug system in this like 100-year-old industry that like doesn't know the way. I could get into a whole other separate rant, which I won't because I know we're short on time, but about how stupid your billing rate is as a customer, where you get like an on-peak and an off-peak charge. That is like so dumb. And so like if you could more intelligently manage in real time both your production and your consumption of electricity, like the benefits to society, the benefits to the economy are like massive. So we got a long way to go before we get to that kind of like utopia. But there's this thing that Chamathis talks about a lot about how we're going to be in a $0 marginal cost of energy future. Yeah. And that's something very hard to grasp. And it's like, if energy was free incrementally, what could you do with compute? What could you do with like anything? Like it's free energy is just like such a radical concept in terms of what other aspects of the economy that could unlock. And so this is a really big idea.
Yeah, and this, for those that are not familiar, Chamath is he's an entrepreneur, sort of investment guy, but he's also part of the All In podcast, which airs most weeks. I think this was discussed a few podcasts ago, but I highly recommend checking out All In podcast. This is where this notion of like close to zero energy idea comes from, but it's all driven through the economics of the innovations that are coming through that's going to allow for that type of value for anybody to take advantage of. And the battery piece is very integral in achieving that. Let's do a couple more. From Airtime 89410. Question: Elon has said energy could be as big, if not bigger, than auto. Based on what you know, can you predict when that could be? So use your crystal ball, Matt, and look into the future. If there is a chance for this happening, when do you think it would happen?
So you have to, for this math to work, you have to assume that robo-taxis aren't part of the equation, but that's easy enough to do. So I actually went through this exercise on that Tesla Energy 101 video back in the Spark Spread days, and kind of the conclusion that I came to was that it's possible for that to happen as soon as 2030. But kind of what I think is a more reasonable target is like 2040. And frankly, Tesla has moved really slow the last 2 years since I put that video together. So I'd certainly put a lot more weight to 2035, 2040 sort of time frame. But it's huge. I mean, like that energy is such a bigger market than auto, and it's more recession proof. So like that's where I think, like, if we're talking 30 years from now, Farzad, like that, we're going to be talking about Tesla energy, and well, there'll probably some like crazy AI thing we can't even think about. But like in terms of like hard assets in the real world, I think energy is going to be like way bigger than auto by, in the really long term.